not. Well, you know what? I'm not recording, so it's just gonna be live. Okay. Um, you can send this to people. That's how they can tune in.
Or you can tell them to go to I.C.A.R.E Studios on YouTube.
Yep. Yep. You need one of them too.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, I'll link it in and go ahead and share. That's the best way to do it.
Okay. And we live TCRN Studios on YouTube.
Is it on the card as well or no?
I don't think it's on there.
Is this plain paper?
Yep. That's on the back of what's the name's notes.
We can make a little flyer until we get some printed off.
That music is what they're hearing right now. And the thing
Right there.
is declare. You can be nervous, but there's people looking at you right now on YouTube if they're on YouTube.
No, YouTube.
Oh, okay.
They can see you.
Okay. Yep. Okay. And we're going to let me see. Okay, mine not on? Is that mine? That's mine. And what do I need?
You don't even have mic one in.
Okay, so this is me, mic 3. I got 3 and 4. So let me wait a minute.
That's mic 2.
Okay. Let me go in there.
You don't even have. You just go.
I'm 3, right? No. Oh, wait a minute. They got me in 4?
Go to.
Or should I just apply that?
Well, I was gonna say go to 1, but apply it real quick just to see what it do. You might have to restart it again. Yeah, see, there's only 1 mic.
So let me take them out of 3. Take them out of 3. Take them out of 3 and put them in 1. I mean, take them out of. Who's it? Okay, that's me in 4, right?
I just say restart the whole thing.
Okay, I'm gonna try this though. I'm gonna go into 1. And let's see what happens. Now we in there. I just heard a kick.
Okay. Now what about his?
Okay.
His ain't nowhere. She's mic 2. So move him. Which one?
He's 3.
Hold on. Okay, so MR3. So take MR3 out. There. Hold on. Let me see. It's probably because of this.
And where am I putting him?
Hold on. Go into it real quick.
Put him back in 3.
MR3. Down. Yep, O3 right there. Apply it.
Yep, there he is.
All right, let's make sure. Yep.
He in there.
Yep.
Okay. All right, y'all. The first thing you're gonna hear is silence.
Watch the levels. Watch the levels too.
Okay, wait a minute. Hold on 1 second. I can't be on the right speaker because you see this? Okay, now why is this not coming up?
Oh, because he went. Remember last night he went into the thing. He went into the thing to try to get the thing to play louder.
Yeah.
So what is it? Snaptics? Or is it the Intel?
Let's see.
Nope, that's in the actual box itself. So go back to the Intel. That one. And then yeah, he changed it last night.
Yes, he did.
Last night. It's still on Bluetooth here. Yeah, he was clicking through them things like freaking the flash.
Okay, let me make sure. Look, okay.
And you should be able to mute it with the mic though.
Mute it with this.
There we go.
Okay. Cool. All right. Now we will mute it.
You probably just had to reselect it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, here we go. In 4, 3, 2. Good afternoon and welcome to the Twin Cities Radio Network's weekly community show, I.C.A.R.E. I know that. I know that we kind of got a slow start, but this information was so important and we wanted to make sure that we got everything right. And then some of us might be a little bit weary too because it was a long journey to get to the conversation that we're about to have here today. And I know I am a little bit. I need about 3 days rest and everything. But I'm going, as I always say, community work is an endless, thankless job. The only thing is sometimes it has a reward. It has a reward. And that reward is when you see someone take that brochure that you give them in line at the Cub Foods or something like that, and then they take it and they go and they do something with it, they get enrolled in the program or something like that. That's a reward for your efforts. Today again, some endless, thankless community workers are with me today. We're going to start with the lady. Let you introduce yourself and tell our listening about yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Declara Tripp. I am a mother, 11, and I for the community. I assisted with helping pass the African American Preservation Act.
We have a radio buddy over here of mine too, and a guy. I know him. I knew him when he had hair. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm Thomas Berry. Man, I wear so many hats besides the one I got on my head today. But I am a program director at Black City Network. I am the co-chair of the Committee on Child Protection Services in Minneapolis, NAACP, family liaison for Village Arms, and I mean, I am the CEO of 12 Watch. But I am one of the people, along with Declara, who has helped in the progression of the passing of the bill, the African American Family Preservation Act.
Mm. Just so some of when you say that, when you look at those people who act like they're doing something in the community, that they're working and stuff like that, those people who you see on TV and stuff all the time, I want you to think about that, and I'm gonna just show you how some behind the scenes stuff has been happening for years that you probably didn't even know about or was not publicly displayed like a lot of other stuff that we see in the community. The African American Child Preservation Act, also known as the Minority Child Heritage Protection Act, or the Minority Child Heritage Preservation Act, was has established an order of precedence for placement of minority children. Breaking that down into layman's terms, our kids were being snatched out of their families and put in strange places and all that sort of thing. And so these two people that are here, I'm going to start with them, and because they even got stories. No, not stories, realities in regards to how this all came about. So I guess our first question is to expand a little bit more upon what is the African American Child Preservation Act?
I can answer that. So it's an act that would protect the best interests of African American children, first and foremost, and disproportionately represented children as well. So it promotes the safety and stability of African American family and the children by implementing minimum standards of arbitrary removal. So just to prevent arbitrary and unnecessary removals of our children, placing them in foster homes that are culturally inappropriate or not providing services
Mhm.
to our families.
I had someone who was on the show. They were talking about that foster home placement that you just mentioned, and how like once they turn 18, the foster home that they were in, people generally kick them out, and it is one of the contributing factors to youth homelessness as well. And so, in establishing this Preservation Act, kind of tell us how this could have a domino effect of positivity.
First and foremost, it'll keep our children with their families. It'll stop the separation, the fast, fast separation of our children from our community. It'll also, on the onset of the case, you can leverage your family members instead of going to the courts and having the courts snatch your child and put them into child protection. On the onset of the case, your family would be involved. Um, how it makes a positive effect is because a lot of our families, our African American families, are impacted by the disparity. So it will cut and help. decrease the disparities that exist.
Hmm. No, go for it, yeah.
Yeah, I think the main thing is being able to give families the opportunity to keep the children involved. So grandma, auntie, uncle, cousin, that fake aunt that's close friends with your mother or friends with the family, be able to get an option to take that child in the home versus them shipping our children off to the outer stretches of the city. Some of our children end up in other states. We just had a young man who was in foster home placement and they placed him in Michigan and he ended up being murdered inside of Michigan in that foster home placement. So, uh, this is one of those things where it puts the control of the power of the family back in the hands of the family. It's a small step. I shouldn't
It's
say
an
it's a small step.
important step.
It's a major step,
Mhm.
but we have more steps to go because the one thing that I do like about the bill is that it does address that. Like we have to understand that we don't have families who don't want their relatives, who don't want their loved ones. The way the system is set up, they just don't give them the opportunity, and it's not based off of their economic backgrounds. I've talked to families who make six-figure incomes who lived in good neighborhoods and they still couldn't get their loved ones from the state of Minnesota, and they would rather put those children inside of white foster homes before they look to black families outside of the state or black family members inside of the state. One of the highest groups in Minnesota, because Minnesota, everybody was like the Jets, Jets fan.
So they say.
But one of the highest groups of children that are removed in child protection services, almost a slam dunk, are biracial children. And so this gives those black fathers and black mothers of biracial children, it gives their families the opportunity to have those children remain in their family versus automatically being put into a foster home and then adopted out by strangers and never having that contact with their family.
Hmm. As a result of that, I mean, I think that some of the um, atrocities that we have seen, the acting out of young people, like over maybe the past 15, 20 years, some of the stuff that we're seeing when we study asking these questions, why, and not knowing that that was going on. We're asking these questions about why these young people so crazy and why they, we're asking why, but we were not asking the real questions. And now all of that information is coming forth um, based on the work that's been done by people like yourself, who's been doing that research and who has experienced seeing young people, like you said, maybe out to Bemidji somewhere, this, that, and the other, where they're uncomfortable, they're not in their environment, and of course, if you haven't been taught to be in a certain environment, you act out. Some of them run away from those homes and they hang downtown and this, that, and get in trouble. But here's the other thing. Some of those people who are responsible for these kids still getting paid for them too. What I understand.
So that's like kind of like the biggest hustle too, because you have to be mindful of the idea that people are getting paid to take these children in. It's akin to chattel slavery. These people are looking at these children as a number. How many of X amount of kids can you get? Some children, they put them in situations where they force them to have nervous breakdowns so that they can put them on medication so that number can go up. So you got some families who have, an income of $10,000 a month just for taking in foster children. And if you really check out the system, they provide the food stamps to feed. They provide the vouchers to put clothes in their bag, right? They even provide a stipend for housing. And then they pay on top of that as
Mhm.
well.
They get more benefits than the actual parent themselves.
Right. And all
Wait,
you have
say
to
that again.
I said,
Say that again.
when your child is taken away from you, it's kind of odd that the system provides more care to the foster parent than it would provide for a mother that was on welfare.
who who meets the criteria for that type of assistance.
Yes.
not only that, I mean, because I always speak to it's a thing called TANF or TANA 100. And Title I funding, that was something that was passed during the Clinton Welfare Act. And we don't know in our community that that kind of funding should go to not only a single mother, but two-parent households. The whole point of that was to keep two parents in the household. They would pay for both parents to go to school. They would pay for both parents to be able to buy a house together. They would pay for daycare assistance. They would pay for food assistance. They would pay for healthcare assistance. All the parents had to do was guarantee that they would stick it out and not make any more babies out of wedlock, right? Down home payment assistance as well, if I didn't say that. So that's Title I funding. Each state has the right to apply that funding how they want. In the state of Minnesota, instead of them giving you that assistance to those couples, they say, hey, listen, we know that this is a woman and child state, but we got so many women and children, and it's getting out of control because these moms, with these kids running away, may not always have the best control. This father here, he doesn't know how to deal with his son that has autism, right? Let's try to figure out a way to keep this family together, funded by the government, federal government, by the way. They took that money and put that money into child development courses at your community colleges. The same child development courses that you pay for to go to school, right? So here's money that could be put to keeping families together. But they decided to take that money, charge you for child development courses at your community college, right? And then on top of that, we struggle with it. And then when we got some family in the suburbs, and guess what? We got these other federal dollars that will be $20,000 per child a year that we're going to spend over here. But we could just spend $5,000, $7,000, make your family whole, make sure you're not in the system. So this is what this bill is addressing. That's why the idea of active efforts, right, to even identify family was such an important thing, because what they were doing before, they might, hey, I'm gonna call Wes, I'm gonna call one time and hang up. See, look, you see, I called him.
Or
It's on
don't
my
even,
call log.
or don't even look for your relatives, or say that they sent paperwork
Yeah.
out, but they never researched the relatives. Or the relative could be present and they could deny the relative, even if they qualify to be a placement for that child.
Would that also involve the quote unquote guardian ad litem?
Yes.
Oh yes, yeah, the guardian ad litem, and there are some good guardian ad litems out there, but just like the social workers, man, it's like a shake of the dice. Depends on that role who you may get. You may find, and I say this for just doing work on the African American Family Preservation Act pilot in Hennepin County. You got some social workers that go in, they got a respect for the family, they got a respect for the culture, and they really want to help people out. And then you got some folks, or some may even look like us. They go in and they want to take control. They automatically, based off of their own particular trauma, they may say, oh, the father's automatically wrong. In a lot of cases, we go in and we would see them take the father and kind of push him off to the side, almost eliminate. He's right there in the house. They would almost eliminate him from conversation, and they would focus in on the child and the mother, and they would try to drive that wedge between the father and the family. In some cases, they've even asked the father or say, hey, if you want to keep the kids, the father must move out the house for a certain period of time until this case is closed.
Well, I have a personal experience myself, and what my son's father, when he showed up to the courts, he was told if he continued to show up to the courts that he would be arrested, and then he was not properly served to come to court, and because of that, on default, they terminated his rights. And this father, my son's father, has been involved in his son's life when he was born, when I went through the case, and till today, they have the closest relationship, but his dad don't have his rights, but that didn't stop him from still being the father. So we have to go, there's another step that need to be taken, which is in 2 years or so, they have another law that they're working on or that they passed, that you can go to the courts to get your parental rights back. So you can motion the courts to do that.
Now, is that something that's just happening primarily to us?
I mean, we only make up about 12% of the state of Minnesota, but we make up a larger percentage, I'm going to say 40% of the child protective service cases in the country. So yeah, I mean, if you look at it per capita, we are the largest group that it does happen to. And part of it is because a lot of us are, a lot of people here, we're not from Minnesota. We're transit. We moved from these other places You might move here, mother and father start together, but the rest of the family is back home, so you don't have that support system, so you don't fall off into the system. And so a lot of people here move in, and you know, West City folks come to get off the bus and they hop right into this system. They go right down to Mary Joe. And when you go right down to Mary Joe, you get that assistance. A lot of folks don't know. They start probing you right there and then.
That's the navigator.
Yeah, you might get a report card on you by the person inside of the shelter because your kids
Yes.
are making too much noise, or they fighting down there. They feel like you're not sending them to school enough, or they don't like the way you discipline your children, or they don't like the way you ain't medicating your children. They feel like your child should be on medication, but you don't, or your kid is too small to them. They feel like you're malnourishing your children. And these are all assumptions. None of these people who are making these reports are experts, but if they know how to call Child Protection Services, and they call enough, you will get an investigator out. And if that dice are rolled and you get the wrong investigator that may have some type of trauma based off of the accusations that are placed on you and your family, you will go, or if they believe stereotypes about our people.
Right.
Because a lot of this is the stereotypes that people believe about us. They don't even give the families or the fathers or even the mothers a chance to prove. They move the goalposts so many times. So what this bill does is it says, no, we're going to solidify the goalposts. Now, we wanted to go further. That's why I said it was a small step. We wanted to go further because we wanted to hold those folks accountable as well. And we might have to, will go back, not might, we will go back to put other provisions in after the bill is introduced to the full state in 2025. I mean, not 2027, I'm sorry. We want to make sure that we go back and say, okay, these are the other provisions that we need because social workers have so much control, so much say, but they don't have to be accountable, right, for the things that they do. I'll give you a quick story. I go out with a social worker working with a family. When I go out there, I'm talking to the social worker, and you know, she's a good lady and all. And the social worker's like, oh, okay, all right, well, let's go out. Let's go in and talk to this mother. The mother said, hey, I remember you. You remember me? She said, sort of. She said, you don't remember me? About 12 years ago, you removed me from my mother and you put me with my father. She said, oh, and she got the social worker, yeah, because your dad was nice to me, and he was saying, that, you know, because dad was kind of like this tough guy. He wouldn't let nobody in his building say, hey, you see this white lady, let her come through. My daughter said, yeah, he molested me. I don't talk to him no more, but I'm back, I talk to my mother every day. Now, mind you, we're out there for this sister for a child protection service case. It's a system that begets a system. These child protection services systems of all with child protection services, child support, all of these social services are legacy programs. We don't know when we enter into these programs, if we don't exit our way out, our children's children will be in those programs, and their children's children will be in the program. And the counties have ways of tracking. I've seen certain cases where you pull up and it's about this mother, young mother. They ain't got nothing on her. It's about when she was a teenager or when she was a minor living with her mother. And they still track those files all the way up. So, like I said, it's a system that begets more people, right?
So I would like to speak to that by sharing briefly my personal story. So when Thomas say there's a system that begins the system, we have to also look at the healthcare system, how we receive discrimination and there's disparities and biases that also exist in the healthcare system. So an example would be I have a total of 6 children. Um, my son I.C.A.R.E was born prematurely, 27 weeks. I'm sorry, I get emotional talking about, but he was born um, severely premature, 27 weeks. The rest of my children were born healthy. I.C.A.R.E, when I was pregnant with him, I received a lack of prenatal care and post-prenatal care, but I was not aware of this information until my son experienced a life-threatening event when he was about 8 months old. So I delivered him 27 weeks. He stayed in the hospital for about 3 to 4 months, and he had complications, breathing complications. His lungs were not developed properly. He had to grow in the incubator, and he was at risk of all of these complications. The doctors were aware of that, and he was when he was born, he was born due to a placental abruption. So my placenta detached, and he didn't have oxygen until he was delivered. When he was delivered, he was born dead. So they had to intubate him. Then he stayed in the hospital for 3 or 4 months. Okay, while he was in the hospital, I seen that there was concerns of his breathing depriving, and I said, when I bring him home, I don't have this machine, but he's still having complications. Why are you releasing him? They released him to me. I did everything I was supposed to do, take him to his well child checkups, keeping him clean, taking him to the doctors, and they said that everything was going fine. I complained to them about a rash that I seen on his stomach. When I took him to the doctor, they said that, oh, this might be eczema. But I said, no, I have other children with eczema. This is not eczema. So he was breathing and arching at his neck. So I took him in. They said, oh, that's behavioral. It will go away. Well, when he turned 8 months, he was at the house and he was in his boppy chair and he appeared to look sleepy. So I went to go pick him up and take him to lay him down, but he went limp in my arms. So I had to call 911 and rush him to the hospital. He was rushed to the hospital by himself. I was led to the hospital with the police. The police showed up. So when I get to the hospital, they say, Miss Tripp, your son has a bleed in his brain, and we have to do surgery to save his life. I said, what? What are you talking about? Because my son never experienced anything. He went from the hospital to home, and he was taken care of very well by everyone. So I said, could you show me what you're talking about? And the doctor showed me, and she said this could be also due to his prematurity. I would not know until I go in and stop the surgery. So I authorized surgery. My son, the doctor came back and said, just like I thought, it was the torlard and a lady vein. I remember everything the doctor told me. I said, okay. And she said, um, so that was that. The doctor told me. So then I was approached by Dr. Mark Hudson from I.C.A.R.E, and he told me due to the injury, due to the intracranial pressure and the brain bleed, that I would be investigated by detectives to make sure that there was no malicious act that I did towards my son. So I was okay with that because it wasn't nothing that I did.
Yeah.
There was nothing that he experienced. But one thing that I forgot to say is that the doctor said the only way that he can experience this is if he was dropped from 3 stories, if he was shaken aggressively or beat upside the head or in a car accident. So none of these things occurred. So it was really frustrating to me because my son has this brain bleed. Nothing that you professionals are saying um, causes this injury he experienced. So now I have a conflict because now I'm everywhere because what are you talking about? So now I get to calling, my doctors. I get to pulling up research and researching how a child could receive a brain bleed without external trauma. And I brought up a research. They came to my house. They investigated me. It was a detective that investigated me. His conclusion was there was no evidence to investigate, so he walked off. Child protection comes in, and I didn't know that it was child protection because the officer said that it was his partner, and she was just coming in to make sure he was doing everything accurately. So I didn't know that this woman, I think her name was Pua Bang, I didn't know that she was a child protection worker firsthand because she came in through the detective, with the detective.
So
So
she
that
didn't
was,
identify herself
yeah,
as
no,
such.
no. And so I'm in the hospital with my son. My family is there. My sister is there. They're taking care of him. I'm there every day so I can see, what they're saying. And he's about to get released from the hospital. Instead of being released to me, they tell me right on the release day that I'm sorry, Miss Tripp, your son can't be released to you. I said, well, what? So my sister steps up and said, well, whatever's going on, until this investigation is over, can you release my nephew to me? And they said, no, because you'll give him back to the abuser. She said, what? Who is the abuser? They hang up the phone on her. So they played this word game with her, did not allow my son to be released to my sister. My son was then released to this ex-nurse by the name of Tara Canfield. Tara avoided bringing I.C.A.R.E to the doctor, so she actually neglected him. The doctor then called and said, I need to see my patient. When my son was brought to the hospital, my son was looking lethargic. I was complaining, like, he doesn't look the same. I'm complaining. I'm giving them the stuff that he needs, even when he's out of my care. Me and my family are providing the things that he needs, clothes, milk, all the essentials for him, still providing it to the placement. So this woman brings him to the hospital, and he's looking sick. So I grab his bottle and I open the bottle, and there's some white stuff floating around. So I go right to the doctor. I said, "Excuse me, I don't know what this is, but my son is not looking right." So he calls the Tara in the room, the doctor, and he says, "How are you taking care of this baby?" Now, when my son suffered the injury, he had to get his skull removed. So they said in 2 weeks we will replace the skull because the swelling would go down. They were saying that based off of what they thought happened. So in 2 weeks they weren't able to replace the skull, and my son's head still continued to swell. So in doing this research, I found that a child, especially male, that are premature can receive the same exact injury because of the underdevelopment of their brain. So they can develop hydrocephalus. So when Zakari went to the doctor, they had hydrocephalus on his diagnosis. So when my son was brought to the doctor asked the foster parent, "How are you taking care?" She said, "Oh, I give him ice cream, I feed him cow's milk, and he was on a special diet." So she was severely neglected him. He was rushed to the hospital, and I stayed in the hospital for 7 days with him, and he was diagnosed with failure to thrive. Well, this Tara Canfield had about 8 other African American children in her care that were disabled, couldn't speak up for themselves. I made a complaint about this woman. My sister made a police report. This woman was still allowed to keep these children in her care. 2 years later, they revoked her license because she was putting oxycodone in baby's bottle that was not prescribed. And that's what I believe she did to my son. So she calls failure to thrive. If my son was in my care, my rights would have been terminated immediately. If he was in my care and went to the doctors with failure to thrive. So that shows the discrimination. She was a Caucasian woman in the system. They allowed her to continue doing this. So I continued to fight. In my case, it took 4 years. There was no safety concern. The only reason why they wouldn't give me my son back is because I would not say that me or my children or the environment of my home contribute to the injury that he suffered. So the medical records that I pulled, I found that I was vitamin deficient and iron deficient. This is what contribute to the prematurity of birth. So I wasn't given my iron, I wasn't given the vitamin D. This contributed to him not growing properly, so it told my body to abort. So that's how the placental abruption happened. When I researched, I got that information and I called my doctor's office and they said, "Miss Tripp, I'm sorry, we didn't test you for vitamin D. We didn't test you for iron, but we did in the previous years." So they lacked testing me, and I was really sick during Zakari's pregnancy. They lacked giving me the vitamin D and the iron. So he was born prematurely with birth trauma. So he was born limp, born dead, and he had these deficiencies and these complications, and I kept complaining about it. Then he had this onset at home. I brought him to the doctors, and instead of helping me as a parent, um, because I'm resourceful, I know how to get him to the doctor. I know how to apply services. Child protection is there when a parent does not know or is not willing to do these things, not to be invasive, to abuse their power. So the doctor, the MCR doctor, was a doctor that's inside of Children's Hospital, but is a doctor that is not our doctor. So when they're evaluating for abuse, that's what they're there for, to find abuse. They wouldn't have a job. That's
To
that's what
find
they do. Yeah.
abuse,
Okay.
not to investigate,
Yes.
to
And
find.
so Zakari, when I have all of this transcript on, I have their transcript because I took them to trial. The doctor said, "Well, we didn't really investigate." And Zakari didn't even qualify. He didn't even have the criteria to be pushed on as a child abuse case. But the only reason why he did it is because statistics of African American families, parents, once an abuser, they're always an abuser. So he validated his diagnosis off of statistics, not the child, not the mother that he was looking at, not the circumstances and the
Mm-hmm.
situation. Then it was later found that they never investigated his medical records to find that he was born like this or that he experienced. So, not being provided the proper care prior to his delivery, not being provided the proper care after his delivery. What I did as a parent is when I researched, I then went to the doctors and I started asking the doctors, and they verified everything in the research. When I started to do that, I was threatened by the county saying, if you don't stop talking about this vitamin D and this birth trauma and what happened to your son, we're going to take all of your children. So,
They
and
threatened you?
yes, they threatened me to take all of my children. So, in my case, I only had 3 children at that time. I.C.A.R.E was my fourth child. So, they took one child away from me but left the other three in my care. But they claimed that I was abusive. I left them home alone. Their theory did not even match up to like the actions that they were taking. Sorry, it took a long time to share that story. But one thing I want to say about the African American Preservation Act is it will address issues like that, because on the onset of the case, when we provide a case plan or a safety plan to establish safety, they leverage, or we would be able to leverage the family members. So the family members would then have the opportunity to step in and see where they can be of assistance or be a placement for that child. So I say all that to say that this act would have been very beneficial if it was before my case,
Oh,
for me
no.
to go.
A case enough alone for the work.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you have stories like that. You have also like Layla Jackson, 2 years old, who was murdered by a racist foster parent who was, responsible for her head and he killed a 2 year old. Right? Severe response based off of this guy clearly had a record. She never been the child should have never been placed in a home with him. But these are the things when we talk about our families. We have to look at the statistics. 2% sexual assault, 9% physical assault. That's 11% of children who are removed. So 89, another 89% have never been physically or sexually assaulted. It's pretty much a judgment call. And what they try to do, like in her case, it's a level of grouping. Oh, so if I look at the statistics, black women do this, you're a black woman, you look like the abuser because you look like your folks. And I think that we struggle a lot with this in the system because people have these biases against us. And a lot of times when you're dealing with investigators or social workers or the people behind the scenes to make the final say, they don't necessarily look like us. And when they do look like us, they may have a level of self-hate and vitriol for us as well. And that's the coldest thing about all of this is that people are playing Russian roulette with children
Mm-hmm.
because the statistics say child removal is the most traumatizing thing that you can do to a child, but people don't mind. They still don't mind doing it. They don't mind taking this child, putting this child with a stranger. We've had children who've been removed uh, for a little or nothing, have their hair cut off,
Yes.
parents would grow in their hair. We've had children have their name changed. We've had children put out so far that they don't have any contact with people who look like them.
That happened in my case. C.A.R.E got his hair cut. He was moved out. I was restricted of the visitations with him. I was given like 1 hour a week. The parents are disregarded when they are in child protection. They should have more visitation. They should be building, you know, working towards reunification, getting the children back into the home.
Listen. Listening audience, now you see why this is so important. What we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit more about some of these other so-called uh, supportive systems that are in place that are probably in some of you's what do you call it, trigger site to be shut down. We're going to come back in just a couple of minutes, okay? Does this sound familiar? Key thing about this drop, you can hear it probably at the end. If you didn't hear it all while. And it's the date for the gala? The 21st.
I know because my grandmother's birthday is 22nd, my brother's is 20.
My grandson's is that day. Y'all got a little minute. We're gonna put a song on, and give you a chance to. What I'm gonna do is talk about some of these supporting support systems. Oh, yeah. So you be doing your own show right here, working your board, doing your own show. Period. But when you do your show, when you come over here to do your show in AACP and stuff, that'd be your engineer. You have your people. I'm supposed to meet with Cynthia today. I'm trying to see if I'm looking for the email to see if I can come early. You know, about doing this and running this drop and stuff because I got the Chamber of Commerce there. See, the Thursdays, of course, the holiday. When your calendar is, because mine, I don't care about these holidays. I still have first Thursday for the meeting. And plan that this evening. So, but then I can probably come for about an hour, in general, downtown. Oh man, it's never ending. Since yesterday, then last night we were here again. Like I said, we're gonna be doing some mini stage shows over here. That's the video side. And of course, it's a studio, stuff moves around. Like my ladder is there because I have to go up there and walk.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's why the ladder is there. But it's a studio. Stuff get moved around all the time. And we're moving some things in to bring some more equipment and stuff in. But you know what? I attribute it to growth. It's not a problem. It's something good to have. I started in an office upstairs. How small was that office? About like this, about this. I know when we had Maserati there, about this, about that. That's going to be a recording studio in there. That's my office, but between this and my hat business, I just in and out and everything. I still got equipment in my van. I got to take some time, but it's okay because it's always something to do, and you need to keep doing. The other thing is you make, but he didn't heard me say many times. I'm a black-owned radio station. I'm the only one in the Twin Cities, and so therefore, I always tell people just because I'm black, it don't mean I'm disorganized, and it don't mean that I don't provide quality service. Never that. And I've been here going on 8 years. I used to be upstairs in a smaller office doing it. Now I got a chance to expand a little bit, do a few more things, and it's a blessing. It really is. It's a blessing for what I'm about to do. That's, you know what I mean? When you can see the vision of what I'm about to do, or what we're about to do, because I got some other partners, a couple other staff people. Um, I'm just an old man radio guy. That's what I am. But the listening audience that we have is more mature audience, people who will probably have issues like yours. I wouldn't be surprised if I get a call or somebody sends me an email and everything. What was that sister's name? Or whatnot, because this is what happened to me. Today we're telling them this is why we're here. This is why that act had to be. And here it is. I know this lady ain't did a day in jail, and those ones who had a basement set up, and everything for our kids like that. I know about that. Them the ones who they got a wing built onto their house because of, and I understand that, but it don't make sense for us. We've had we've had so many of our kids that went through stuff like that, and here we are. Like I said, these people don't even know about this work. They don't know about stories like yours. Now, some people that went through it, but they were so busy fighting that they couldn't get with you or anything like that, or for a class action lawsuit or any of that stuff, because they don't know. They don't know. They have them so, because I can tell, when you told the story, I didn't hear you reach out to nobody. You stayed on the hospital and those doctors' ass, about diagnoses and stuff like that. That was important and immediately relevant to what you was trying to do. I didn't hear you wasn't calling for Spike Malls. You wasn't calling for nobody. You did none of that. You stayed the course and stuff like this. We'll do that. Let me see. This is my son. He's in California for the first time. He went with his girlfriend to California. Oh, he's reacting to. Did you see that post? Yeah. So anyway, it's a good thing. It's a good thing for this because now, this is what I was gonna ask. The backlash. Now that this is in place, stories like yours are gonna come up. And so, now these people might get together and all of a sudden want to do something.
Too big of a business. That's why I wasn't saying like the bill was a small step, but it's a business.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we kind of forget that we're still a business, that we're still a commodity. And so, I tell people I call police every day. Folks like, you like her? I'm like, no, I call her every day. They're like, why you call her every day? I said, ask her. I said, I call her because I know you messing with these white folks' money.
Yeah.
And I know this is a $550 million a year business. And when we start messing with their money, they start trying to play with your life. So I gotta make sure you good. Ain't nobody gonna call you. I'm gonna call you to make sure you solid. You gotta at least be able to hear from one person.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of us, we get caught into the celebrity of it, but we don't really take it as serious as it should be. So I don't think that they're gonna necessarily stop things. As I stated before, they know how to put certain black people in place to let them fumble. So they ain't gotta do it. So now you can't screen racism because I put your folks there, right? So I'll put somebody like, my man Devin. They'll put him in charge of the DHS, give him $3 million. All his work was
Don't say give him some money.
They only gave him $3 million, but all of his work was based off of the African American Family Preservation Act. He was discrediting police the entire time, telling people shit crazy. He won a Bush Fellowship. The community was clap. Oh, he won a Bush Fellowship. The white folks love him. They gave him $3 million. He got to be the one, right? But the whole time, when they started coming up, because you mind you, the bill was passed in May. They started groups in the whole nine, meeting behind the scenes. They've already said police can't be a part of those meetings.
Wow.
because I told you, when you start playing with these people's money, y'all gotta understand this is the levels to it. So when y'all see me and I don't be smiling all the time, but I be like straight business with these folks. That's why yesterday I wasn't rushing the game. There's no photos of me. There's no photos of me.
They got a couple times.
They got a couple, but you'll see me rushing up to do anything. I ain't wear a suit. I wore a sweater and a polo. It was, trust me, my wardrobe screams better. But I didn't come dressed for that.
Right.
Because I knew that it was about a look. And so what's going on behind the scenes. So you're right. It's definitely, and I'll speak to it, man. It's a lot
Okay.
to it.
Hello there, this is Carlos Camilo, pianist, singer, composer, arranger, producer. And you're listening to my brother Wes at the Twin Cities Radio Network.
He's from Cuba. Once again, thank you for tuning in to the Twin Cities Radio Network, asking you to don't forget this Sunday and every Sunday, it's Smooth Jazz Sundays. I'll be your host playing not only the best in smooth and contemporary jazz, but I'll also be providing you with the most wonderful soundtrack for whatever you're doing on a Sunday afternoon. From 12 noon to 4 p.m., it's Smooth Jazz Sundays right here on the Twin Cities Radio Network. We're back with our special guests, our community guests, and again, these people have been in the trenches. I mentioned at the top of the show how you might see a lot of people out here working in the community or mouthing off or taking pictures in front of cameras and stuff for a community. Most of the work, and as you heard, first of all, let me stop and say powerful testimony, reality as to why this Child Preservation Act should be put in place. Just your story alone. I mean, I got chills. I got chills. But then at the same time, I kind of got angry because I thought about how, did we call it the warehousing of our kids? How, that our kids have been warehoused out in these suburbs and have been used for them to add swimming pools and additional wings to their houses, that sort of thing. And off of our backs, off of our backs, and more services being provided to them than the natural parent to take care of this child. That's something that I've seen. I wanted to throw this out there just for all practical purposes because I was reading, this was maybe about 4 years ago, our Hennepin County child support and its foster care system has separated more families than what they have brought together. Now, I'm going to throw this one out there because child support was brought up. We have now what they call my body, my decision. Is that what that stuff is? A whole huge thing about it. But my thing is, hasn't it always been their body and their decision? And so if it's your body and your decision, and you decide, I am going to keep this child, this, and this young man says, I'm trying to finish school. I can't still afford to have a child at this time. I want to go to college, this. And so then he's made to not pursue his dream as a student, to become educated and that sort of thing. And he has to work and pay for this child because it's her body and her decision, not his. So now it was consensual sex, but now he's being treated as though he raped her. His life is so. What happens is that man is the one who becomes aborted because he's made to just pay. Child support does not enforce the two-parent family. They separate you by your money from that family, and we're in this my body, my decision. It's always been, and so if it's not my decision, I'm not a part of your decision. Why am I made to pay like I raped you when it was consensual to begin with?
I tell you, you should have used protection.
Well, I mean, I understand, but the key word is
That was the decision, the first
yeah,
decision
but
that
the
they both
key
should have
thing
made.
is consensual, consensual, not protection, consensual, yes, it's permissible. We're going to do it like this. At the same risk of catching AIDS or anything else by being consensual of having unprotected sex. But instead, you just get pregnant. And now, here's a guy, his college, his everything is thrown away because it was her body and her decision. So why is it that they don't? They say, well, ma'am, this is your body, your decision. This man is not in favor of it. So this is your body, your decision. And so anyway, as a result of that, I've looked at a lot of men who have had their dreams, hopes, snatched from underneath them as a result of my body, my decision. So if it's your body and your decision, then why is it not your responsibility? And that is a question too. But again, not enforcing, not enforcing, because the best support that you can give to a child is having both parents.
Right.
Best support ever. And that's not being enforced. The only thing that's being enforced is you hit a black man and his money, and you are bound to get some opposition.
Well, I think the bill addresses that too, because it leveraged the father, and it will give, the father the opportunity to be involved in the child's life and be at the same, level as the mom if they are involved with child protection. So that father would be given the opportunity to be able to care for that child if mom cares.
So let me speak on that. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Couple things. First thing is that I always look at it from the vantage point, and this goes back to Tanner. If we stop blaming each other, start looking at the idea that the federal government is supplying money to the state to take care of the child, the mother, and the father, versus just the mother, then we would alleviate a lot of that. Secondly, you want two willing parents.
Right.
You want a willing mother and a willing father, because some people have grown up in households where there has been a lot of unwilling mothers, and their mothers are bitter, their mothers are angry, their mothers are abusive. Ask that child how it's like to have a mother forced to bring a child into the world. But they've also been in households where fathers were forced to be there because they didn't want to be there. And that father is abusive, he's bitter, he's beating on his child, whether it's physically or verbally. So we have a lot of archaic things. And now, it's kind of crazy because we will always say you need two parents, but if somebody wanted to go to the sperm bank and buy a child without a father there, we're okay with that in the society. And no one talks about, this father elsewhere who just ejaculated in the cup. We're not looking for him for child support, right? Because they can afford to buy that. So you see it goes back to the financial aspect. And in our community, we've allowed the system to weaponize itself against us. And so we use this whole thing about protection. But you can use protection and that could fail too. No, seriously.
Yeah.
The plan B fails too. But if we find ourselves in a society that supports more two-parent households, you will find less people wanting to have abortions. You will find less people splitting up because of the financial constraints. That's what that TANF funding would have done. Now back to this bill, because this is what's important about the bill. The bill does invite the father in because a lot of the termination of parental rights in Minnesota, I want people out there to really understand where I'm coming from. Fathers who are not married to the mother at the time of birth do not have parental rights. You have the right to pay, but you don't have parental rights.
Yeah.
They do, and if you're out there, young dad, do not sign that parentage form. I don't care what she tells you. Don't sign that birth certificate. Don't you do it. You're just signing on for the right to pay the hospital bill. There's untruths in our community that we believe are true. Do not do it. This is what they'll use to hang you later. Now, I've talked to people in child support. They'll tell you, the parents that go down and tell go tell all the truths you want to. Yeah, you put your baby daddy on the hook for child support, but they also know that most of the domestic violence, when it's time to take money out of their account, happens when that child support money is pulled out. Nobody talks about that. And you all avoid bill collectors when they call you. Imagine your child becoming a bill. How much do you talk to your bills? How frequent are you dealing with your bills? See, we're not talking about the humanity aspect of it. We always go from the aspect of what they taught us. Some young men are going down putting themselves on child support, even if they're in the home with the mother. You shouldn't do that. Child support is not something you need to do to raise your child. You and the mother, if you guys are having a child together, and you said, hey, baby, I want you to have this child. She said, I want to have your child. Y'all should work on how to split that 50-50, right? Because it's two agreeable partners. We're not talking about, you're talking about what happens if one is agreeable and the other is disagreeable. Well, let's bring child protection services in. They see that. They see it's already a divide. That father may be off in prison. Maybe had nothing to do with that child the entire time. They will come down, take custody or put the custody in jeopardy with the mother, then they'll go talk to the father about what to do next. They already know he's already in the bond and they can get him to sign over his parental rights. And many of them do. That's another way to snatch the kids out of the home. So they use a lot of these disagreements that we have amongst ourselves that we use on public display. Yeah. We talk so much on social media and talk so bad about each other. The system is geared now to hear what we say about each other and then turn around and use that against us to make sure that we disqualify parental rights. So if you're a young father out there, the reason why I said don't sign that is don't sign up for child support right away. Talk to the mother. Y'all work out something. Young ladies, y'all ain't got it. Listen, I've heard from child support workers who said mothers get more when they come down in line. They won't say it on record, but you go down there telling on that guy, they know you're cruising for a bruising. Not necessarily physically, but you're going to have something emotionally happen because that man ain't going to be happy with you or that child. Even when he takes care of that child, it's going to be halfway. Parents who are there all the time, typically, they don't have child support guiding them. It's a guy you don't need. Take that out of your life. Learn how to communicate with each other outside of the system. A lot of these child protection cases come in, brother, because they're mad at each other. They literally call. You said on intake, you know how the calls are. Mm-hmm. They call in, and what they do is they'll say the mother drop kicked the boy, gave him a busted nose, a black eye, a whole nine. This may be the father calling. This could be the father's girlfriend calling. They come out, ain't nothing wrong with the child. Or the father's got the child because in their agreement, he has parenting rights. Well, the mom don't like the fact that he got the kid and he got the kid with his girlfriend and they out at Valley Fair. So now she's called and she's making up things so he can get a child protection case because if he gets one and if it's for abuse or what have you, they can terminate his parental rights. Yep. So everybody's playing this game, but they're being played at the same time. I'm going to say it again. What I've heard from people in the system, y'all truth tellers that go down and use your biblical reasons on why you're doing it, you're going to cause more problems for yourself being so honest in this system. You might want to check yourself and ask, do you want to really start this tug of war? Now, me, I feel like the system is responsible. That's a part of national security to make sure every child is fed, every child is housed, every child is educated, as well as every other citizen, right? That's on them. That system, you ain't about to break that bank. Ramsey County got plenty of money. In her situation, the county could have helped in and said, okay, this is what's happening. Sister, you wasn't getting the right vitamins. We weren't treating you right. Instead of covering it up. And so now we're in the process now where everything is about the cover up. It's not about the initial situation because if they would have came back and said, you know what, Miss Tripp, your son he's responding this way because unfortunately when you were pregnant, they weren't giving you iron, you weren't getting your vitamin E, this is what was going on. You would have said, okay, well, what can we do to rectify this situation? Our first mindset ain't to sue them. It ain't to sue them. We just care about our kids.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. But they were afraid that it was going to be some legal actions or punitive damage.
And you being kind too. You being kind. You being kind because she ain't gonna say it. So Mark Hudson, who's a doctor, right? Now they did a Channel 9 story on this guy about him falsifying. This is also part of her story. A doctor falsifying. I seen this man give testimony down at the state capitol. He's lied on parents before in the past. They got caught in the lie. When they call him down to the state to give expert testimony, he's a liar. They've done a story on this man on Channel 9 News, right? catching him up in lies. Why would the state still be doing business with him?
Right.
Because if he was black, they wouldn't do it.
And that need to be addressed because I understand that Mark Hudson is ahead of the funneling now. You know, the child, like he reviews fatalities or near to fatalities, so he's a part of the funneling system.
So imagine this man lying. Imagine this man still being able to do business with the state. Imagine the state using him to oversee cases. See, when we say that we're going to do something right, we should do it all the way right. And we got to get rid of the people that was doing wrong. You know, you can't end slavery and then turn around and keep folks in the Confederate and charge them. And that's kind of what we're talking about with this bill. So we have a lot more to do, and we're willing to do the work. You know, we're not, this is not our team. We're not just here to get praise and accolades. We really want to save families. And I, you know, shout out to Khalees, because I don't think I've said her name too much on here, but shout out to Khalees Houston and her work.
Definitely shout out.
Because she started this 9 years ago. And I'll tell you, even up until yesterday, she hasn't gotten a warm welcome from our community.
I welcome her wholeheartedly.
But you know what I'm talking about, Wes.
Yeah. Oh, listen, she
And
was the first person I contacted
that's
about
sad.
today's show. She and unfortunately she is doing a presentation or a briefing, I believe, on the Child Preservation Act. She told me right off the bat, said, "Yeah, I won't be able to make it and everything, but I'm gonna, contact our colleagues and whatnot." And so that is living proof that the work has just begun. Even though we reached the finish line, the work is really now it's time to do the work. You know, at least we got in the door. Now I don't know, is it cleaning? Start to clean the house? Where do we start?
Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to get the information out to the community. Because when the Crown Act was passed, they didn't wait 2 months to let people know that the Crown Act was passed.
Right.
They couldn't wait to tell you that you could raise exotic hairstyles.
Right.
Like what can be your
Right.
But with this situation here, we should have been having conversations right away in May, preparing our families from Hennepin County and Ramsey County, the 2 counties where they'll be launching the pilot, letting them know what the pilot will allow you to do, so they can start learning how they can advocate for themselves, learning the law. Because part of it, and Declare she can verify this. A lot of our families just don't know the law. They don't know the can do's and can't do's, and so allowing that information to flow out to our communities. That's the first thing we should do. Second thing we should do is we should look at the oversight process. We got to make sure the right people are in the process of the oversight. We don't need people who are coming just because the state or the county is offering dollars. We need people who are vested in this work, who are willing to do this work for free almost, because you have to have a love for it. We did it for almost 3 years, and you got to have just doing the casework, working with those families. You got to have a love for people to be at their beck and call when they're going through the system, because it's not easy. And then lastly, we also have to look back and say, okay, this is one leg of it. Let's figure out how we can come back and improve it a second, third, or fourth time until we get it where it needs to be. Our children, because you brought up the thing about homelessness, but when we talk about public safety and crime, 70% of the children that are in juvenile halls are typically from child foster care they were out of home placement. So if you put them in out of home placement, you're almost guaranteed more so than the math and reading scores that they'll end up in prison.
Mm-hmm.
So we should look at that as a community instead of talking about early nesting and vacation.
That's another pipeline over there. Pipeline over there.
It's a larger pipeline that everybody's ignoring. And one last point, because I'm a former educator, so I want to speak to my educators out there. Y'all should have been down on this fight. The students that y'all deal with on a day-to-day basis in urban environments, these are the kids who are in this system.
Yes.
When they don't want to listen in your classroom, they have situations because they're too tired, they're too hungry. They may not even be with their mom. You're making an assumption that they're with their parent. They could be there at a whole foster home and they're just responding to what's happening. Or you guys are calling, reporting on the parents instead of giving them resources. Calling Child Protection Services don't help. They have a whole other division called Child Welfare. Call Child Welfare.
Get them the services.
And get them services, right, instead of just calling the police, essentially.
Right. Starting that kind of stuff. I'm trying to get past that other pipeline first one.
It's a bigger
Talking
pipeline,
about,
brother.
yeah.
Brother, it's a way bigger pipeline, and I'm telling you, we scream school to prison pipeline so much. We don't scream foster care to pipeline because most of us grew up watching Different Strokes, Facts of Life, Webster, and other things. They primed us for foster care. We were being primed for foster care and out of home placement since the 70s. They made it cool. You laughing at Willis, you laughing at Arnold, you laughing at Tooney, you laughing at all of
What
these
you
folks.
talking about?
Yeah, all that was promotion.
Yeah.
So they started promoting the idea of out-of-home placements with black children in white homes. Notice everybody I'm talking about was a black child, typically from the worst of poverty, being placed in the ideal wealthy home. So in our head, when we say, oh, if they with a white family gotta have money.
Better.
Or the white family gotta be educated, they gotta be nice. No, a lot of these people, some of them are child molesters.
Trash.
Some of them are trash. Some of them are bigots. But they know that this is a dollar that they can get. And so they use it as a business. They don't use it. And one last point on this. I was at a meeting at DHS about 5 years ago, myself and my brother Nick Muhammad, shout out to the I.C.A.R.E network. And we were pulled to a side by a manager at DHS, and she said, all of these out-of-home placement camps are in areas comparable to the same places on the map as the prisons are. So they're warehousing your children in abundance in the same places close to where the prisons are throughout the state. Now imagine how the dollars that the prisons bring to these communities. You can imagine having a juvenile type foster care farm to feed them into it. So you go from there to prison next, right? So they understand what they're doing. And I would tell you, working at DHS, I would tell you there's a lot of people, both black and white, who are tired of the system the way that the system is at this moment. People want change. The thing is, can we have folks like Governor Walsh yesterday who signed the bill? Shout out to him and Bobby Joe Champion, Sister Esther Baje and others. But do we have the courage? Do we have the courage to make change? Not saying, oh, this is bad, but let's keep it the way it is.
And the courage to keep checking on each other and encouraging each other in terms of doing this work. Like you said, what you do with Sister Police, that you call and check on her. Because stepping out here in front of multi-million-dollar businesses, you know, you target yourself. You target things. And excuse me, that's why I have to applaud. I had to, I have been a media entity and been trying to do my best to get the word out. And I will say that we're going to go a step further because what you said, we're looking at doing a series of podcasts to push this word out so that people will understand. Today is just the first step. You know, at least we got it signed out there. And now we want to tell them why. We want to tell them why with the same degree of continuity that they continue to do what they're doing for our kids and our families and such. And so we're hoping, so yeah, that's right, y'all the first two. So we can, yeah, well, you can get used to this. You can get used to this. It's something that do you think that we need something like that? First of all, let me just ask both because you guys been in the trenches.
I think it's very important to have something like that to allow our people to have, like information or somewhere to go to be filled with the information. Because sometimes we don't know the right questions to ask, or people don't give us the right information. So to have somewhere where you can go, where you can get that full, informed information of this.
And I think it's great because a lot of times the families are isolated in their pain. And so they don't share what's going on with child protection services. Oftentimes it gets so bad to where it gets out of control. Then they have to come and tell you. Well, the good thing with the podcasting is they can find out that, hey, it's not just me. And I didn't do anything wrong. This is just the system. This is how the system is acting towards me.
And this is how I approach it. This is how I talk. this is how I respond. This is how I carry myself because on if anybody was invaded, their life was invaded and their children was snatched away, they're going to be angry. They're going to be upset.
Hmm.
Another thing the bill, I think, would do is stop the cookie cutter,
One size
behavior.
fits all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so we would be able to address the family and their specific needs, not pile them with 101 things that have nothing to do with their current situation.
Yeah.
They all look alike.
We need more attorneys. Shout out to Rhea Gordon Spears.
Yes.
We need more attorneys. It's crazy because we have a chamber of black lawyers or what have you,
Hmm.
but we don't have a lot of black attorneys who are stepping up, taking these cases for black families. So we have Rhea Gordon Spears who is doing it, and she's doing a great job. But a lot of times I go in, they'll have three attorneys against Rhea by herself.
Yeah,
Three. She's fighting the county attorney, the child got an attorney, and they may have the guardian ad litem might have an attorney, and she has to battle all three attorneys giving. Imagine this: you got three folks giving three different angles, and then you have to come up and counter all three
All
different
three.
angles. It's almost a slam dunk against you, right? So we need more black attorneys. What we're trying to do over at the NAACP, what we're trying to do with our committee, shout out to Cynthia Wilson, we are trying to put in where we can bring families in and show them how to come together and do a support group. Support each other, show them how to advocate on their own behalf. Show them, hey, you don't always have to let them in. Here's the do's and don'ts, the wills and won'ts. Because you have to know this, especially if you're over there at 55412, 55411 area code.
Mm.
You get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So it's heavy over there in that district. That's why Abaje and Brother Bobby Joe Champion, that's why it was apropos for them to be the ones to carry the bill because those are their constituents.
Yep. That's where he was raised at.
Exactly.
Born and raised right there. Another thing, I believe that prevention and awareness is important because, this, I know you talked about the Crown Act, but this is just as important for us as COVID or anything else. And it's a plague. I'm not going to say a disease, but it's something that has taken a place in our lives and in our families that now we have to practice. I mean, we have to put on the proverbial mask for this because this can come and get us. This could affect us
Yes.
in a way, and we have to put on that mask. And so the prevention and awareness, I think now it starts because again, as we said at the beginning, okay, we got to the finish line. Now the work starts.
Yeah, David Gilchrist, I'll be calling you. We got to have a conversation.
Devin Gilchrist.
Yeah, over at DHS. We got to have a conversation. We got to make sure. Village Arms did the pilot for 3 years. Everything that you guys are going to try to do, we've already did it. Hennepin County, we've already piloted. We've already, Ramsey County, we got connections over there too. Police Houston is the author of the bill. Why wouldn't you have her expertise at the table?
Yeah.
Why would you not have this system here? The problem that we have now is Governor Walt signed it. We can't allow our people who look like us to fumble because of their egos. And some
That's right.
folks, I want to say this too, and I'm gonna speak this in general to the entire community. What happens is people will sit back and watch a person fight. They'll say they got your back, but when you getting beaten down, they ain't never hopping into the fight.
They won't even pull the person off.
As soon as you raise your hand, they taking pictures to sell the T-shirt and being the champion. Our community got to stop doing this. We're talking about our next generation and generations to come after. Don't hop into this thinking it's about $1 because that's not what Khalees did.
right.
Khalees don't have children in this state. She does not have family who have
She's
children
very
in this state.
passionate.
She did this because she had love
Yes.
for black children.
Yes.
That's right.
So it's going to take a commitment from people who have love for black children and black families. And I want to say this again, black families. Minnesota has a hard time saying black families. You like to say black mothers. You love to say black children. but you don't like to say black families.
Mm.
You have to have a love for black families. And I'm not talking about always because some of y'all feel like, because you dipped your toe in the pool, you got an expertise on both sides. We don't need that.
Got to get wet.
Yeah.
You got
Drenched.
to get all the way in.
That's right. You got to get wet.
And so it's not about the dollar, it's about the commitment. So when you say what's next, brother, I feel like the commitment has to be there next from all of those people in place, as well as I think her name is Tiki Brown, who is heading the new DHS. We need to make sure that you folks are as committed as we have been committed for these 9 years. We shouldn't have to beg you and knock on your door. If you was just there yesterday at the ceremony, you know who's been doing the work because she was the main one sitting there speaking. The governor even talked to her. So for you to commit and start anything based off of her work and not call her, that's blasphemy. We have to call that out as a community. And lastly, community leaders, because you said her not calling folks. When you folks were called up and you were asked, some of y'all sat back to watch and y'all thought it was going to crash and burn.
Yeah.
And some of you still don't even have the dignity and grace
to say
good job.
Good job.
I was wrong. Congratulations.
The whole nine. And we don't need that over here. But we don't need you guys turning into
a profit.
Hey, listen, we don't need you guys to turn into the community or the poverty prostitute. Not the pimp, but the prostitute. We don't need you to turn into the poverty prostitute. Because they offer you money don't mean you should step in the ring and do things when you know we need it done the right way.
Right.
If you know you're not equipped for it, if you know you haven't been taking the steps, why would you do that?
You wasn't on the front line.
You wasn't on the front line the whole time. You wasn't in the gym shooting these practice shots, so you don't know. And if you are going to do it, you should still at least contact the person that you know that was the expertise. My sister ain't here today because somebody out of state found value in what she was doing. Now, why she got to find value out of state when there's so many people in state that need what she got?
Well, same thing happened for Prince. He got famous when he left and went to other places.
Sound like next too.
Right? And then when he came back here, they was,
That's crazy.
Someone had said, and I'm gonna post this up. I got it in I got it saved as a meme. It says, friends and family will not support you until strangers start to applaud you. And I believe it. I mean, because I have seen it happen. I have seen it happen, myself. And so, I remember it was like stage hosting. I used to travel the country before I did, start doing this radio station. Ladies and gentlemen, Grammy Award nominated Mr. Will Downing. I was doing, but here I could do. No, nobody asked me to do anything, and the people didn't even know, that I was doing that. And I had to stop doing it because, I had 2 sons growing up. They were both, teenagers. So I had to root myself. And that's why I did the radio station. So I could stay and, keep an eye on my sons and do what I needed to do, for them. And so I do understand that. My hope is that with the work that was being done, and shouts out to everybody who done this, that this is something, I mean, there's a lot of things we can't come together on. This is something that we need to be galvanized at this here. And so I honestly believe that as we continue to inform people about all the things, like some of the things that we talked about here today, and how this has been taking place for so long, and how it and the destruction that it has done, I believe that those who are interested and those who are willing, like those that you talked about, who want to be committed, we may reconstruct us.
We can do it.
Us, because the young people ain't the problem. There's a problem related to them, but they aren't the problem. If there's anything that I didn't ask, or anything, because I'm not perfect, I didn't ask, or some information that you may have wanted to make sure that our listening audience, got something in particular. I know you had that something you wanted to say before you left and everything. Let's take that opportunity right now. Both of you,
One thing that I didn't share that I had true belief is that my son and my experience, sometimes you have to go through it to get to it. I used to be questioning, like, why? And today I don't have to question why. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for Thomas. I'm grateful for the team. I'm grateful for Khalees. I'm grateful for this being able to take place and being a part of it.
Any shout outs and thank yous?
Yes, so I want to thank you, like I said, Thomas Berry, Nick Muhammad. I want to thank Khalees Houston, the governor, for being present to sign the bill, and the lieutenant governor, and just everyone that had a hand, that put their hands on deck to make this possible. Because there were some that was there in the beginning that isn't here now, but I want them to know, everyone was important in this fight.
I just want to thank the people. Well, let me start off by thanking you, Wes, for allowing us to be able to start the. The second thing I do, I want to give a shout out to the Minnesota State House. It passed 166 to 0. So that
That's right.
shows you it was a
God.
bipartisan bill, and one of the Republican House reps gave a moving
Yes, he did. From the Bible.
scripture, and was
That's
saying that if you got a problem with this bill, then you're not right with God.
That's right. God is
And so I'm going to use his words. If you're in our community and you don't support this bill, you don't want to talk about this bill, you don't want to help push this bill to make it better for Black children and communities that come after you, you're not right with God.
That's right.
I want to give a shout out to the Urban League and Marquis Stevens. They're going to be putting together a real talk. I think that's what they call it. Could be wrong, but it's going to be a conversation that will be had because we didn't do a press conference afterwards. There's going to be a panel discussion in the next few weeks. We keep receiving dates, and it's going to be a discussion probably every broadcast. Where we'll go right back to.
I knew that was coming. Yeah, you said we're gonna keep you. As soon as he
Keep you
pointed,
posted.
I knew then. But I am just glad to people like Linda Sloan,
Shout out to you.
as the council minister for African Heritage, for keeping, for inserting this media piece. We need to. Our station covers the whole state, and what's happening affects the whole state of Minnesota. Because, like you said, they ship sunlight here down to rural or knee jerk or whatever, jerk water, Minnesota, and that sort of thing, to be a media entity for this and to have gotten in to be a part of this as a media entity. It's been our honor, and our pleasure, and we want to go further. We want to go further. So yeah, definitely keep me abreast. Um, for me, when we talk about leadership and those people who may present themselves as our leaders, well, I look at these people who worked in the trenches, who were leading without being seen, without bestowing titles upon themselves, who fought for something that other people were, no, and man, you should let that go, and da da da. And from what I learned, we're told to let that go. Is that not correct? Told to let that go. How could you? I say to those people, how could you? Something that's so important to our future, something that's so important to what is happening right now, something that has been a catalyst and a how should I say it, a root of many of the problems that we have experienced that were totally out of our hands. We had no way of, contacting. Well, these people were doing the work, boots on the ground, real in the community type of people, real situations such as Sister Declarers and such, and realizing, not only just realizing that this was in fact something that was not good for us, but then doing something about it. Leaders are not camera whores, people who smile or just, come on the scene afterwards and start praying with people and stuff, all of that stuff. That's not leadership. And those days for that type of quote unquote leadership is over. These are leaders. And if you could get in contact or if you know anybody who had anything to do, starting with Police Houston. And we cannot leave out Senator Jeff Hayden, Rena Moran, these people who just, and you don't even know that they was involved in it. You know, if you ask, just like now, Rena Moran's a commissioner. Well, what has she done? Well, you don't even know what she's done when she was a representative.
You don't know the conversations
You-
she had with people, the time she took to talk to parents,
She was going
and
to
the
the trenches,
encouragement,
man.
Yeah,
the
swinging.
encouragement she gave.
Swinging, swinging. Rena Moran swinging. Jeff Hayden. Some of the stuff, I don't know, could have even probably cost him his senatorship, you know, because he was fighting so hard. But he's still Jeff, you know, still a good dude, still a fighter. You know, you didn't take the fight out of him, though. You know, you didn't take the fight out of him. And the many other countless people that we hope to bring about as we continue to do the podcast and this awareness piece that we need to do to continue to make people aware in the community so that you will know what leadership is. This bill being signed into law is what leadership is. That's my question to these so-called people who exceed their self-appointed authority often as leaders. I always ask, where have you led us? Where have you led us? This body, this body is a bunch of leaders who are not claiming anything. Who are not claiming anything. In fact, now that it's been signed, they're rolling up their sleeves to get ready to work. As I always say, when I end any show, whether it's a community show or a music show, I always say that the only time success comes before work is in the dictionary. You have to do the necessary work in order to achieve the degree of success that you seek for yourself, your family, or your future. And so if you're not willing to do the work, you know, you can't keep doing the same thing and expect different results. You can't. You know, we can't keep gliding by. The community prostitutes or pimps. You can't keep gliding by. That stuff ain't gonna fly. In fact, community word, some of y'all, these people was coming down and asking, what did y'all do with that money that you was supposed to have did for your people with? That's what you said on that paper. Y'all didn't think these people was going. They coming back with that money just like they did. What was that scheme during COVID? No, not them. Not them folks.
The PPP.
They coming. They coming. They coming. They coming. So what you're doing is you're going against God if you're deceiving your people. If you're not with this, you go against God. You know, this is only God given. I really appreciate you. You were a definitely good guest for this discussion here today. You were the right pick. You know, as you can see, I'm going over. I'm going over a bit. It's all right though because the work ain't done. You know, we got it to a point as to where now you can see it. Okay, and so I asked that listening audience and everything, see where you can assert yourself in this body of work that's been brought to the surface. That now you can visualize it, you know, see it for what it really is, and how you can be a contributing factor to the continued success of this body of work. I'm Wes, and on behalf of my man, Mr. Thomas Berry, I'm going to give him your first and last name again.
I.C.A.R.E.
And my man Thomas, tell them they'll hear more of this on your show, won't they?
Yeah, definitely. Things that they never see is pushing forward. So yeah, we're looking forward to talking to you all out here in radio land once again.
No, tell them where you at. Wait, let me tell you something. We have radio maturity here. We have radio maturity here. You tell them when and where and on what station.
So we're trying to figure out the time and date, but it's going to be on the Twin Cities Radio Network. And so once we get that figured out, we'll be in.
But your show.
Oh, my show.
Yeah, tell them where they can tune into you at.
Oh, my show. You're talking about Rant Radio. So Rant Radio, I'm going to be back. You know, let me just say this. I was on the radio station on Saturdays, and I'm not moving and I'm not budging. I'm going back from 8 a.m. to 9:30. We're going to be talking what we were talking on that other station, but we're going to do it with flair, we're going to do it with dignity, and we're going to do it with responsibility and accountability. If I have opinions, when you can have facts. Because four opinions is not equal to one fact.
Not at all. Not at all. And so again, I just want to thank you guys. And as we continue and try and get out of here, try and get out of here, so we go on with our day because our day, your day is full with mine. I think we got some of the same things that we're doing today. Um, we ask that you continue to stay safe. Hey, it's the middle of the summer. Have fun. Make memories this summer that will keep you warm this winter. And most of all, be safe, stay safe, but do have some fun. I'm Wes. I'm out of here. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, T.